I mean, I'm natural. Like, I mean, people love me. I love people. What made the company different is I was the first person who did outpatient therapy. Like, I went into the homes of all my clients. Everybody there was more like office visits, right? And that part of the job I didn't like. I'm like, we've got people showing up here that we say need therapy, but when they come in, they look so good. They talking right. I'm like, they don't need therapy. But when you go to the homes, that's when you see like, man, look at the challenges that these kids have when they leave out the front door. And so that's what made a difference. So a lot of the staff members, they wasn't in the office daily. So they was more like outpatient. So nobody really seen me daily. When I finally kind of made that first party, everybody came out to have fun. And then the owner showed up. Like, oh my God, I never knew you was the owner. I'm like, that doesn't matter. Like, we all here for one common goal. I
There's a
look at
difference
this.
between a dream chaser and a dream catcher. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dream Catchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome. And when I tell you, this is like divine intervention that we have this guest on the show today. Happened to check in with my buddy Bob over in Wake Forest. He's like, man, I met this really cool guy in first class the other day. He had to drop in. It was riding first class, but it's okay. And I was like, okay, so who is the fella, man? He's like, oh, man, he just sold his company. He did this and he did that. I was like, huh, what kind of company was he? He's like, oh, mental health, something or another. And I was like, okay, Bob, well, you want to introduce me to him? He's like, yeah, man, I'll do that. And once I found out what Don had done, I was like, man, I bet he knows my buddy Rod Brown. I saw Rod in the gym this morning, and I actually put more weight on the bar, and I think Rod might have cussed at me a little bit, but that's for another day. And so I was like, man, Don, you know Rod? I said, what system do you use? He's like, we use Rod's old system. Rod's exited his company. He's a previous guest on the show. And I was like, all right, man, well, let me connect you with Rod and y'all could talk. And Rod was like, oh, man, I know Don well, man. I remember those guys. I remember when he was in North Carolina before he moved down to Florida. I was like, oh, man. He's like, man, the,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
universe is diabolical. His exact
yeah.
words, the universe is diabolical. And so with that, man, we got Don Jackson in today. Don, how are you, my brother?
Man, I'm blessed, brother. I'm blessed, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you. You got that
Yeah,
prosperity on. You got that prosperity smile. I remember a man
yeah,
walked up to
man.
me at a football game and he said, "Man, you got that prosperity smile on you." And that thing was a blessing to me. I'll never forget that, and I want to share that every time I see somebody with it. So, I like to open up the show with, so you had an exit.
Yes, sir, man. I had an exit. I had an exit strategy and a plan. Yes.
Come on. So what kind of business? Like, let's talk about this thing, man. Did you always know that you were going to build a company and sell it? Because I mean, you're a young fella. I mean, I see a little gray in the beard, but you're a young fella.
Yeah, man. Nah, I never even heard of anyone that actually built a company and sold a company, man. So this was not planned. Definitely was something that just like God just led me. Like I've been telling people the whole time. Like it wasn't something that I woke up with. Like I'm gonna build a company, then I'm gonna scale it, then I'm gonna sell it. That was not the plan, man. It just happened.
Come on, it didn't just happen. You did some stuff. There was probably some risks made, and we're going to dig into the journey. So, did
Yeah.
you did you become an entrepreneur out of high school? Like, what was the journey to building the company? And I mean, if we can mention the name, I'd love to.
Yeah. The company was Right Path Behavior Health Services. Yeah, yeah. So it was a mental health agency, man. So well, how my journey started, honestly, man, I felt like I always had that hustling spirit. So since I was younger, man, I was cutting yards. I made sure I had the whole block set up, man. I had like 8 yards, and I made sure I cut those yards. You couldn't come in my area and try to take 1 yard. And I had the best prices, and I'm telling you, I did the best job, right? So that's kind of how it started, man. And I was a father early too, so I had my first kid at 15. So at that point, I had to get a job and I had to keep, hustling and cutting yards, right? So that kind of really put that hustling spirit in me, man, because I was like ultimately a adult really early, right? So I had a kid, I had bills, I had stuff I had to do. So that actually pushed me. to a different level of working hard. So that's kind of started like my whole journey of, you know, getting myself ready for um, owning a company or something is me cutting yards early, man. Like that's the foundation of Don Jackson first business.
Okay, and so tell me, did you just keep cutting grass and doing yard work until you moved into starting your mental health agency, or did you go to
Nah,
school? Like, what was that journey? Because that's tricky when you're a teen parent. Because I mean, that's at least an 18-year obligation, man.
uh, 27 years now, but I'll say after that, man, I played sports, right? So that was the gateway to um, getting a lot of favor from a lot of people. I was, I'll say, a decent athlete. I won't say great, but I was pretty good. That made me kind of known. So I had a lot of coaches and a lot of people that actually came into my life and actually helped me. Knowing that I had a kid early, so that took a lot of work out. Mentors stepped in to kind of guide me, and then when I finished high school, I had no guidance on like, okay, did I want to go to college? Did I want to go to the army? So I sent one application to one college, and it was Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I was now it was during the summertime, so I'm out working again, man. Now I'm not cutting yards, I'm actually painting, man. I'm working with this guy, man, and we painting houses and stuff or whatever. So and now I'm making decent money because he's like, look, man, like college, people go to college, they don't have a job. You're really good at handiwork. I'm like, all right. So I come home one day and I got a letter from Shaw University that said I was accepted. I'm like, what? I got accepted at Shaw University. So, true story, I packed my car myself. This, for all the kids, this is prior to like all these little Google Maps. I had printed out the actual map on how do I get to Shaw University from Jacksonville, Florida. And it was like drive 50 miles, then you make a right. I have never driven out of Jacksonville in my life. So I took this 6 hour journey to North Carolina by myself with everything that I own for its clothes in my car. So I get there and don't know nobody. So I'm there and I'm like, okay, how does it work? So I get in line and it was like, well, here go your dorm room, here go this. So when I got to college, man, like then I found my own family, man. I met great friends, great teachers. And during that journey in college, I still had to work because I had a kid. So I did the work study job there, right? And one thing I could say though that I've always done, any job that I had, I was the best at doing it. Like I made sure that, okay, if I got to go around the yard and pick up trash, go to these teachers' classes and change out the trash can, for one, they all love my smile. So they were like, oh, there goes Smiley. He's in here. So I would go in, man, but I always did my job right, man. So when I got the work study job, that was heaven because I had kids, right? So then in school it was easy because I didn't like school. So I worked hard. I went to summer school every summer so I can finish early. I'm like, man, I just want to get out of here. So I finished a 4 year college in 3.5 years. And so graduated. Um, then I stayed in Raleigh and it was a mental health agency there that was ran by a guy named Joe Hopkins. And that was my first journey into it, man. I started working with kids, start seeing how things work. I'm like, okay, I'm natural. Like, people love me. I love people. So that journey worked. And then I moved back to Jacksonville after probably about 2 years of doing it. And then I got a mental health job here in Jacksonville because I was like, okay, I've been away from my daughter for a while. Let me get back home. So I started working at an agency here, and it was totally different. That was a more of a black agency. Then I moved to Jacksonville. It was totally different. It was a white agency, and I wasn't really excited about how things was like ran. I'm like, man, this, like, I mean, it's just about numbers. Like, I mean, they want us to, go visit this kid for 10 minutes. Like, I'm like, this is not really working. And so I decided one day I got up like, you know what? I'm gonna start my own agency. Didn't know where to start, didn't know how the application process worked, and just started it, man. And it took me, I think this is the probably was the toughest part of it. The process was supposed to take 6 months. It took me 2.5 years to get approved to do the service. I had this one lady that came out every time and she failed me. She was like, nope, this is not right. And her third time she came out, she said, why not just keep a job? Like, why do you want to even do this? Like, why not just work? I'm like, nah, I want to start my own agency. Of course, she was a white lady. This is the South. And she had every reason why I was not good enough. So I finally started making these cold calls to the state. I'm like, yo, man, I've been trying to do this for a long time, running out of money. I mean, this lady would not pass me. So I don't know who this angel was. She was like, okay, how about you send me all of your charts? I'll do my own desk audit. And if things are right, I'll make sure she go back and do your audit again. The lady called me like 2 weeks later. She was like, listen, I'm going to have her come out this week and you should be fine. The lady called like, oh yeah, I'll be there in like another month. Called later, I'm like, listen, Ms. Helen said she's going to come next month. You told me she was going to come this week. She was like, no, she'll be there tomorrow. Lady called me back, came out, passed me. In 2012, that's when I really got started. Like it took me 2 years, and I'm talking about I had every reason to like quit. Like it was like this is not working. She's like, you should get a job. And of course, me being young, I'm second guessing myself. Like, yeah, maybe she's right. So that's kind of that journey of me getting right path started. And when I started, I was the youngest mental health provider ever in the state of Florida.
The youngest.
Youngest provider ever in the state of Florida. Yeah, I was 28 when I first started.
So, did you have an exit plan from the job that you had? Or did you like quit? You're like, I'm doing this, and then, but you couldn't bill. Like, what was that
Yeah.
transition like? Because that part is sticky.
Yeah, dude, I quit. I just gave it up. I think for most people like me, when you at a job and you watch how things are done and it's not done how I won't say how you would do it, but it's not done and it's really impacting lives. And you feel like, man, I'm just showing up to this job and like this is really not me. And so I quit. I told her, listen, man, here go my 2 weeks notice. She was like, why are you quitting? I'm like, I can't. This is not for me. I'm gonna do my own thing. And she was like, if you ever need me, call me. I was like, thank you. And that was it. And trust me, dude, I had no money. My insurance on my car got lapsed. Like it was a lot of stuff happening in that transition from leaving my job, the corporate world, starting my own company. Like that was probably the greatest, scariest sacrifice that I ever done.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And so, how old was your daughter at that time?
My
10,
daughter was about yeah, she was about 12,
12.
12,
And so,
13.
she's watching daddy go through this.
Yes.
How did you look her in the eye when you didn't know? Like you didn't know if money was going to be there. You didn't know if it was going to work. Like that's what I think holds a lot of people back. They're scared to make the
Mhm.
leap because they don't want to make the people that they love suffer.
I mean, that's part of greatness, right? I think if you want anything, what I've learned in my journey, it comes with a great sacrifice. And those people who love you, um, they're going to be a part of that journey, right? And so I think for me and my daughter at that time, it was a lot of time. I remember she asked me for, Dad, can you get me this cell phone for Christmas? Matter of fact, I shared the message with her probably like 5 years ago. And I said, I cannot afford it right now. But I promise whenever I can, I will get you a cell phone. She was like, thank you, Dad. Love you. That was it. And I still have that text message. And I shared it with her. And I was like, oh, because I bought her a brand new car last year. Cash. I bought her a brand new car. And it was like, I'm like, but do you remember this? She's like, yeah. And we were just like, so that was like a real moment. But that was hard. And I think a lot of people struggle with that first leap because God give you a vision, and it's something that nobody else can actually see. So to your friends and family, it's gonna be foreign. Like, why would you leave a job that you're paying your bills with to do something that nobody's seen? So um, it was difficult, but it just made my process of choosing people that I was gonna carry with me easy too. Because a lot of people was like, oh, man, I had friends like, oh, he crazy. He don't want to work. He just lazy. That's all that is. And I mean, I had people. So now, again, like that rings in the back of my head with people. I'm like, man, this guy told me I was lazy. You was scared. That's why you quit your job. You just, So, but ultimately, those things happen, which is great. So when you are going to that next level, you know who was with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
You gotta
That's it.
remember who was willing to go down with you. And that's funny because you had that track record of being the best worker. So laziness, it doesn't seem like that was in your DNA anywhere. That's
Yeah,
interesting that they would go there.
very interesting. Yeah.
So you get out, right? You get out, you're no longer an employee. Now you chief everything officer, right?
Yes. Yes.
Chief
Yes.
all the
Yeah.
glitz and the glamour, right? As soon as you leave your job, you walk into a Ferrari, you got the private plane waiting for you on the runway. Is that how entrepreneurship works?
Definitely not. Definitely not. You got to take out the trash first, man. You got to be the trash man first. I'm telling you.
So, how did you navigate that? Because I mean, maybe when you were doing the yard work, you were okay with that, but you got a college degree now, you got work experience. Like as some point for a lot of people, that's too humbling. You got to put the paper in the printer now. You got to clean the toilet if you got an office. Like I
Yeah.
mean,
Yes.
there is all of that. Uh, was it a shock for you, or you knew it was coming and you were ready for it?
I think for me, I kind of really adapt to things really easy. So it's like as it came along, I was like, well, let's do it. If I had to vacuum the floor, let's do it. Right. Elevator was out in the building. Hey man, I gotta take the stairs, man. All of that happened. And then, we all know when you hire people and you just start a company, you don't get paid. You're paying everybody else. And you like, so all of that's humbling, man. It's about being a if you're going to own a company, you got to really be a servant. Like it got to be about everybody in your company but you. And those are like natural traits that I have. Like God just gave me those.
Yeah.
So
You've been willing to do whatever it took to serve the clients, and now you're serving employees. So who was your first hire? I always like to know about the first hire because sometimes that just doesn't work out, but you learn
yeah,
about it.
yeah, man. My first hire was a lady by the name of Chantel Cohen, and great lady. She actually came in as a manager. She did the case management part of it, and I was doing like more of the therapy side of it. And so she was like my my best pick that I could have chosen, and she's still there now. She's still there. She's still my first hire was the best hire, like, and she's still there now. Right. So
Right.
yeah, man, she was there for 12 years. 12 years when
Okay.
I exited, she was still well, she's still there now. Like, I mean, she always called me. So she actually runs everything. So when I left, they moved her up to everything that I was doing. So I mean, it's like, yeah,
That's amazing.
hey man.
I love
Yeah.
when it works out because there's a lot of people who hire folks, and I imagine some of the folks that you all hired didn't work out for you. Is that a fair
Didn't
statement?
work out. It didn't work out the first. year, I had more employees come in and out the company than I had clients. It just like it was just us two, and people would come in and like like my name is kind of fun, like Don Jackson. You don't know if it's a white guy or a black guy, young, old, right? So I literally had people that would come in the office interview, and you would see them just shut down, like yes, no. I'm like, do you want the job? Yeah, I got. People would not show up, and people would get hired, and just like that was hard. Like hiring people outside of her. Um, we would always joke now, like, man, our first year we had more like staff members that came in and left than it was clients, because everybody just was like, I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't want to put, my license, in your hands. As we see, it was a trust factor, right? So yeah, that was tough. That was
Right.
tough. And a lot of people don't get past that either.
Yeah, because now you got people that you're bringing in and they're saying that they don't believe in what you got going on, or they're looking for a situation, or they're uncomfortable placing a bet on you as a person who can actually uh, provide opportunities for them to render their services. Not like they could go do it on their own. That's part of the reason why they were looking for the job. But that one's really tough. But it sounds like you were able to work it out. And so, how many people were you able to grow it to before you got to the place where you're ready to exit?
When I left the company, we had 63 employees and contractors. Yeah. The biggest company in our region. Yeah. The biggest for-profit company in our region. Yeah. Yeah. So that and as time went, it got easier and easier. Like people were seeking to work for the company. Like, hey, you know, are y'all hiring internships? Like people wanted everything. So it's like after probably year five, like people just start coming like pouring in, because like Right Path was like a real name then. So everyone was kind of like hearing about like who is this company? Who is this company? And I kind of played low key for a long time. So I never said I was the owner. Like it was people that worked there for years, and like, oh my God, I did not know he was the owner. But I mean, I showed up every day and I was working. Like I'm working with clients, I'm working with the staff, and I just got, my first probably about 5 years, I was just used to day in, day out working. Get there at 6 o'clock, leave at 6 o'clock. So
That was a
that's
Florida
how I
half
work.
day.
For real, man. That was a lot.
Man, 63. So you went from having a revolving door to being able to retain 63 staff members. Man.
Yeah.
So you, you said people were working there and they didn't know that you were the owner. So what was your title? Did you still like you pretend you were the therapist guy? Like how did this work?
Directors of operations. That was my name. Director of operations, man. I just came in and made sure all of the systems worked, man. Like, hey, did you talk to her? Did you do this? Did you solve this problem? Did you? So that was it. And it was when I finally had my first Christmas party, and a lot of, because right then we probably had about 30 people working there.
Hey guys, as you might know, a very small percentage of the people who actually listen to this podcast are subscribers. So do us a favor, subscribe. In fact, we did some analytics and we found out that only 25% of the people who listen are subscribers. And our goal is to get that to about 75% over the next 3 months. So do us a favor, hit the subscribe button so you get notified when our new episodes come. We plan to bring immense value to you guys going forward as we continue to improve the content that we create at Dreamcatcher. Your dreams should be real. Let's get back to the show.
And it's so many moving parts, right? And what made the company different is I was the first person who did outpatient therapy. Like I went into the homes of all my clients. Everybody there was more like office visits, right? Everybody come, show up at the office. And that part of the job I didn't like. I'm like, we got people showing up here that we say need therapy, but when they come in, they look so good, they talking right. I'm like, they don't need therapy. But when you go to the homes, that's when you see like, man, look at the challenges that these kids have when they leave out the front door. And so that's what made us different. So a lot of the staff members, they wasn't in the office daily, so they was more like outpatient. So nobody really seen me daily, right? And so when I finally kind of made that, you know, that first party, everybody came out to have fun, and then the owner showed up. Like, oh my God, I never knew you was the owner. I'm like, that doesn't matter. Like we all here for one common goal.
That's a beautiful thing. And it shows that you were serving. And it probably speaks to your leadership style as well, because you're getting things done through other people. A lot of folks
Yeah,
want to just, hey, I got the power. You got to come to me, command and control. And it sounds like you dispersed it so the organization could work, even if you weren't in the middle of it.
yeah, definitely, definitely. That's my
So,
style.
did you ever have a board for your
It was just
company?
me, man. It was just me.
It
It
was
was just
just
me.
you.
It was
It
just
was
me,
just you.
man.
So this is the part that's always interesting for me, because um, as you tell the story, it's like, oh man, he never got out of the day-to-day operations. He was there every day until after he sold it. And
Yeah,
then they had a key employee or number two, the first hire. She was able to step up and take over a lot of the roles that you were handling for the company. So when you exit, and you exited last year?
yeah. No, this year, January the 10th,
Okay,
twenty
so
twenty four.
you're 8 months out, right?
Yeah,
Um, you're 8 months out. When you go from your Carolina half day, or your Florida half day,
Lord have
Florida
that.
half day, to not having that on your calendar, for some people it's like running into a brick wall, because it goes from everything to like complete stop. Phone not
Yeah,
ringing,
yeah,
nothing on the calendar. What was it like for you after you closed?
man. Tough days, man. Trying to really figure out like what else am I good at? What's next, right? And we don't realize that we get so engulfed in our company and in other people outside our houses because we spend so much time with our staff members and our clients. So me, I'm getting up like, man, like, what am I good for? like, I mean, I was great at this, right? I'm not only helping clients, I was helping my staff member, I was helping my, my team. Now it's like, what do I do? Like, truthfully, and I'm still going through that stage of what's next. And also, um, I'm that person. I want to feel value, man. I want to leave a real print. Every day that I get up, I want to do something. I got a prayer. I tell God every day, use me, like use me to do whatever I need to do. Speak to whoever I need to speak to, and help whoever I need to help. So at this stage, it's like I'm walking, and then it's days that he like, I don't got nothing for you today, man. So and it's those are the tough days, and I'm still trying to manage that, along with trying to manage in time, So yeah, I haven't figured out one out yet, man. Like how my
Yeah.
days is gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, we call it the founder's exit paradox, right? That's the space where it's like, all right, so you were in the company like 17 years, some like 15 to 20 years, right? When it's all said and done.
Yeah, 14 years, 14. Yeah,
14,
14.
14.
Uh,
So, I
uh-huh.
mean, if fortunately for you, it wasn't 40, right? Because when
Yeah, correct.
people get to 40, it's like, I don't have an identity outside of the company. There's still some stuff there, but figuring out what's good is like super important. So like in that beginning part, like we talk about nourishing, we got this 4-step process that a lot of the founders go through that we work with. And it's like, all right, so what are you good at? What don't you like doing? What do you love doing? And like those talents are transferable, that you cultivated and honed while you were in the company, to other
Mhm.
problems. And then the other thing that you try to figure out during the nourish step is like, who do you want to serve now and what problem do you want to solve for 'em? And so if you could figure like those three things out, like what you're great at, the talents, and then who and what, then like things get a whole lot easier. There's a lot of people who would say, "Oh man, don't do anything for 6 months, don't do anything for a year," but that can be
Yeah,
challenging because when you're used to going, right? You talked about Carolina or Florida. I gotta keep saying Florida. My dad used to work Carolina half days, so we're in Florida.
yeah, okay,
Florida half days. It is abrupt, and you
yeah,
start looking around for your people. Like your number two, you talk to her every day, probably, or at least five
yeah,
days a week, and then you
yeah,
go to not talking to her, especially and
yeah,
definitely not as much as you used to talk to her because she's still doing the business of the business, and you're not doing that anymore. And so that point of commonality is gone. Now, I'm sure there's a relationship there from all of those years that you were together, but it's not the same because you're not on the
yeah.
same mission anymore. And we when we do like live workshops and stuff, we find that like 60 to 80% of the people that folks talk to on a regular basis vanish on the backside
Yeah.
of the exit. And so I guess that would be my question for you. When you think about the five people that you talked to the most when you had the company, if you go back a year, the five people you would talk to the most on a weekly basis, how many of those folks do you still talk to on a weekly or daily basis now?
Probably two. Probably
Yeah,
two out of
there it
probably
is.
probably
Right.
two. And it was probably 20 people I was talking to a lot, like a
Yeah.
lot, like that was there for a while. But yeah, man, it's again like I think our bond is there. It's just the time. Like they're still working. Right. And I think that's the same thing with like friends. Like most people who have friends that work jobs is like now I'm waiting till like 5 or 4:30 for my friends to get off work to even call them. Like everybody's at work. I'm looking at my clock, it's like 11 o'clock. I gotta wait till people get off work to even have a regular conversation about sports or anything. So a whole lot has changed, man. A whole lot.
Yeah, but you got the freedom. And I mean, for me, that's the most valuable piece. Like you bought your freedom papers and now you have the opportunity to do what you want to do. I want to go back to the bright spot because this is kind of a down moment. So, did you get a check or a wire when you sold it?
I got a wire,
You
man.
got
I
the
got a
wire.
wire.
See, I like when
I
people
got the
get the
wire.
checks, but you got the wire. It's more efficient. But I like when people walk in the bank and the teller looks and then looks and it's like, this is above my level. I got to call the manager over here. But you got the
Right,
wire.
right.
So the wire hits, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You remember when the wire hit?
Yeah, man. I was in the car with my wife. We was headed to North Carolina, Raleigh. Um, and I had just got off of 40 on to 440. And my lawyer hit me. He texted me, Don, did you get your wire? Like I haven't checked. He was like, you should check. So I looked, whew, well, that number was long. I said, comma, comma, comma. So that was I I literally I don't know how I felt though, man. I can't even tell you that I was happy or nervous or whatever. It just was like, is it real? That's what I want. It was a sense of real, and I had a couple $1 million already saved up, right? So it wasn't my first $1 million, right? But I mean, to get a $5 million check in one day, that's totally different. That's totally different. I'm like, I mean, I was breathing, I didn't really pull over. I was breathing like, yo, is this real? Like, yo, and I just started to think back to when I first started. That was the moment.
Uh-huh.
That was the moment. Yeah.
You got
Yeah. So
grateful. It sounds like you got grateful.
I did, man. I was like, yo, man. Whew, yeah, that was it. That was it.
What'd your
That was
wife
it.
say?
I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. So yeah, she was happy because she knew the journey. Definitely happy. But everybody around me, I'm like real humble. So it's like I didn't post anything, I didn't share anything. And it's people right now will have to go to this podcast to even know that I sold my company. That just how it just kind of like just just keep it humble and grateful, like you said.
So did you celebrate though?
Um, I'm not good at it. I,
Come
I,
on.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't. We went to dinner. And then when I got back, my kids and my wife had put a little dinner together, and everybody bought flowers. And like, well, the theme of giving you your flowers while you living, right? So everybody gave me a flower and kind of like talked to me about how they felt about everything that I've sacrificed and done, and how proud they was. Like that was the most special moment, right? So I did kind of tear up a lot then, just hearing everybody words. But I didn't have a party. I didn't, I didn't buy the, like the token watch to celebrate that moment in time. And but
No trophies? No car, no watch, no nothing?
nah, man. Even the buyers was like, "Yo, man, go buy that watch, man." Like, but I already had two Rolexes, so it's like, I mean, I'm that dude. Like, once I already experienced all these things, it's like, what I'm gonna buy, like, what I'm gonna do,
Yeah.
So I did buy properties, right? So I own like 25 properties. So I did buy two more properties, and add that, on to what I've owned. I just believe in, it take money to make money. So I'm putting money places that's gonna, generate money. I don't
Yeah.
want to just go give it away, but I'm gonna buy that watch though this year.
Yeah?
I already said it. Like, yeah, I got to.
What is it? Tell me
Rolex.
about it.
It's a Rolex, man. Um, Presidential.
Okay.
So it's on order now. I'm waiting on my Rolex guy to call me. He said, "Man, when it comes in, I'm calling you, and I'm getting like the date and time that I sold the company engraved in it." So that's my moment in time piece that I will always have. So that's pretty much all I'm doing. That's like it's. I mean, I think the watch is like 54,000 or something.
Yeah, that's the all
It's
gold
like,
Prezi. The all gold
you know what
Prezi
it
with the
is.
big face. I see what you're
Yeah,
doing there, man. I love it,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
I think you
yeah,
gotta enjoy it. I mean, there's gotta be some enjoyment. Yeah, of course you want to invest and you want the proceeds to create more, right? You wanted to
hmm
leave and go get some babies and come on back and keep doing that because
yeah,
it's not just this hit, it's the portfolio. And the thing that a lot of people miss when they sell their company is they cut off their income. And so
yeah,
if you're making whatever you're making from an income perspective, because you actually built the company to the place where it could pay you, now you got it all in a lump sum. You got to put some assets out there so that they can earn the money for you that you turned off when you sold the company. Because if not, then all you're worried about is running out of money. And I've seen people go to that place of scarcity when they're
yeah,
in.
definitely.
It's like, oh my gosh. There was one guy I talked
Yeah,
to. He's like, man, I'm worth 11 million, but I worry every day I'm gonna be back under or be under a bridge. He never was under one, so he couldn't be back under one. But I'm gonna be under a bridge. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you gotta enjoy it in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be a watch. It doesn't have to be a car. Whatever floats your boat. As listeners, like but you gotta celebrate it because if you don't, then you kind of miss the moment. And I think a
yeah,
lot of Apex performers like you, Don, they struggle with um, celebrating and acknowledging
yeah.
how talented and special they are and the gifts that they've been given to the world. And so I'm happy for you, man. I look
Thank you,
forward
man.
to maybe seeing a picture of it or a video when it happens, even if it's not
Man, I'm coming
social
down there to
media.
visit Rod, man. So hopefully I can work out with y'all guys, man, when I come
Oh
down.
man, well, we get a little earlier than you. We start at 4, so you're gonna have to
Woo!
up a little earlier. We
I
done by
like
the time
that.
you getting up. We back at the house.
I like that though. I like that. But I think the hardest part, which is why I think this podcast is so dope, man, is people who usually build companies and sell them without having like a roadmap. You don't get to hear like the words that you're sharing with me, not even knowing that it's helping me more than you can even probably think about right now. And it's like because it's like, oh well, you sold the company. Because most people that's around you, you're so common, right? And then they don't know like the hard work, and they never done it. They never seen it. So it's almost like, who can I really talk to on this level that understands what happened? So when me and Rod talked last week, like it was both of us was like, you get it. He was like, yeah, you get it. Like, because you can be put into a certain box to where people don't really understand it. It's like, yeah, what does it really mean? And those people like you that say, hey man, like you actually bought your freedom rights. Like like you can, right? And it's like, now I always tell people, it's like, when you have like this eagle that's trying to fly into this chicken coop, like it's like caved in. It's like, no, bro, like you supposed to soar. Like you can't just, but you so used to working inside of a space. It's like, yo, man, like you definitely should be soaring. But when you hear those words from people like you, who actually understand it, who get it, who thrive on it, and you're like, okay, yeah, okay, I can soar a little bit more, man. I should, be happy, right? And not just, oh my God, what I'm gonna do tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, what I'm gonna do tomorrow is I don't know what to do tomorrow because I can do whatever I want, but I didn't plan that part out because so much of it was planned for me for so long. But at the end of the day, you finding your next is magic, man. I'm really excited for what's ahead of you because you've got the heart that's going to make the world a better place. And it's just a matter of identifying where you're going to use that talent and how you're going to invest and get the returns. So I want to get a little technical if we can for a few minutes, man. A lot of times people come in and they say they want to buy your business, but they don't have the capability or they try to jerk you around. Was the buyer of your company the first person that approached you?
yes, the first person.
And did they buy it for the initial offer?
Nah, definitely not. They actually sent the email, and for like 2 years, I never read them. I'm like, man, because truthfully, I'm telling you, just being vulnerable, like I've never heard of this before. Like I'm like, who would want to buy a company, right? Because I mean, in my eyes, it wasn't perfect. I'm like, man, I got all these kinks. I'm still trying to iron out. Like, man, who would want this, right? Um, so they sent it, and finally, I read the email. I'm like, hey, can we have a phone call? And da 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 da. So I Googled them, like, it's a real company, a real person. All right. So finally, my accountant sent the email like, hey, if y'all want to set up a phone call conversation, that'd be great. So they called and, hey, we're interested. We've been, so we had to send all these documents. This is the part of it I did not know, how detailed the process is with every piece of information about you personally as well as your company. So it took about like 3 months to even get an offer out. We sent all the text and all this information that they asked for, and they sent me this crazy offer back. It was like something low, like 1.5. I'm like, man, what I'm gonna do with that? Like, I already have. I mean, that's no money. So I just hit them at like, nah, we definitely know we're close. Thanks for sending the offer. They was like, nah, I mean, but we're not done. Like, can you send us this? We want to look at, payroll. We want to look at this. I'm like, I don't even know these people, man. I'm sending all this stuff out. And so I had another company in Jacksonville that somebody knew that the guy, like they actually set up deals to sell companies. And the guy was like, okay, Don, send me that deal. Let me see what your gross and what your net is. And, then they started talking about this Etherable number. I'm like, what is that? Never heard of this. Like, well, we need to look at this number and times it time this. And so he was like, yeah, they way off, but 4 million, without you having to pay somebody like us to to actually broker your deal. Like, you'll cut out us, which probably gonna be like close to, $500,000. Like that could be a decent price. So I'm playing hard, but I'm like, nah. So send it back. They was like, okay, we'll give you four. I'm saying, listen, man, my bottom line is this, right? And so I end up getting what I asked for. So it it really took a while though, because I wasn't taking nothing less than that.
So overall, like how long did it take in the end?
It took about close to a year and a half.
Yeah.
Close to a year and a half. That
Yeah.
the long process of, when I tell people, when I mean, getting vulnerable and being able to trust people, like that's where you got to send everything. And that's kind of what I think my new gift is wanting to get with other companies to be able to help them and show them, like, listen, man, you got to make sure that your taxes is done correctly. You got to make sure that, you know, um, you don't have any like outstanding credit or debt. Like that was one that they thought was crazy. They was like, you don't have any debt? I'm like, no, like all you have is a credit card you pay. But yeah, I didn't take out any loans. So PPP thing came back. That was clear. And they was like, that part of it, they was like, well, you probably won't get all this because we got to pay off the debt. I'm like, I don't have any debt. And they thought it was like crazy. Like, so that's something companies may want to look at, like making sure that you're not over leveraged when it comes to like debt, and credit stuff like that, because it's not attractive.
Man. Don did it the right way, ladies and gentlemen. He is an example of what a dream catcher is. I mean, it is a shining example of what's possible when you're willing to do whatever it takes for however long it takes in order to manifest the dream or the vision that's been placed on your heart. And I'm so grateful that he was willing to spend some time with us today. Don, it's just inspiring to hear and see the journey that you've been on, and I can't wait to see what the second and the third mountain are for you, because I think there's bigger and better. I think this was just a stepping stone. It might have took a while for you to get here, and it's funny because you were able to do it without a whole lot of debt and struggle and strife. We didn't hear about fits and starts. It was like you were able to endure through that period of uncertainty where a lot of people turn around, right?
Yeah.
2 years to get your license, and you already quit the job, and the gatekeepers are keeping you out, and you're like, man, no, get me in, and let me find another way. And you've been able to use those skills throughout your life. Even you could have just maybe went into the military because you were a teenage dad, and maybe that would have been good enough. You had a career and some insurance, and who knows
Yeah.
what war you might have ended up in. But you chose different, man. You chose to go the path less traveled, and I think you've been rewarded for it. And for that, you're a shining example to anybody out there who's questioning whether or not their dreams can and should be real, because you made them real, man. So, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me, man. This was great.
So
This was
I like
great.
to wrap up with one final question, man. And that
Hmm.
question is, we covered a ton of ground, right? We went through
Hmm.
7 X's, right? We went from you being an employee to being chief everything officer, to having your first employee and kind of supervising staff, to you truly becoming a CEO. You skipped over having a board, and then we talked about your exit, and then we talked about some of your post exit stuff. You were already building a real estate portfolio beforehand, and you added some more to that real estate portfolio after you sold the company. And I know you and I talked a little bit, and you say you still own the real estate that the office is in today for the company that you
Yeah.
sold, which still keeps you connected. But you earn that money whether you go to that place or not, right? Because that asset is generating the cash for you. So, um, that's a ton of ground and a lot of places for people to get lost in. If you had to pick one thing you want the listeners to take away from the episode, what is it?
Takeaway, man, that your vision is your vision. If the vision was for anybody other than you, God would have gave them the vision. So you got to trust it. You got to follow it, and always know if it was easy, everybody will be doing it. Embrace the struggle.
Mm.
That's it.
Embrace the struggle. The journey is the way, man. And I think the journey is the goal. So many people just want to get to that finish line. And you find out when you cross it that it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. You got the check
Yes,
and it's like, oh man, the money's not burning a hole in my pocket because I'm used to managing money. But there are things that you can do. I call it selective extravagance, man. So we'll wrap the show here. We got to get together, man. I know you make some trips up north. We come south sometimes, and I would love to connect and just continue to deepen and grow the relationship. And um, I just want to tell you thank you one more time, brother.
man. Thank you too. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man. To the listeners, your dreams should be real. We'll catch you on the next episode.